Well, hello again. I'm Brian Sergio from the Big Love Spirituality Podcast, and this is episode 4. I realize it's been a while since I've done a podcast episode, about a month since my last one. Sorry about that. Not that I haven't been focusing on other things. I actually wrote a song that was connected to what was going on in Minneapolis called We Are Not an Insurrection, and was recording that and getting that released on Facebook and other places. You can look for that if you're interested. But I also had a hard time getting clear on what it was that I wanted this next podcast episode to be about in light of all that's been going on in the world. And so here's what I've come up with. The title of this episode is called Hawk Spirit Vision on All That's Happening Now. And this is part 1, in which I'm going to focus on Jewish Kabbalah. Part 2 and 3 will focus on other spiritual methodologies and modalities and making some of the same basic points, which is that I think we are right now in what the Sikh sacred activist and author Valerie Kaur has referred to as the darkness of the womb and not the darkness of the tomb. In other words, I think we are, as some have used the metaphor, experiencing the contraction now in a birthing process. That a big part of the pain that we're experiencing now as a culture here in the United States and even around the world is about something new coming into being. And that reframes it in a very hopeful way to me. But part of the reason why it took me a while to be ready to do this is because the urgency of what's happening right now has been so intense. And with my sort of zoomed out, big picture hawk vision perspective, I did not want to in any way make it seem as if I was not taking the urgency of what's happening right now and the depth of the pain and the overwhelming tragedy, especially in the midst of things going on in Minneapolis and now the war in Iran. There's just so much sorrow and tragedy coming at us that having a big picture perspective almost felt disrespectful in a sense. And so I've thought about that. I've prayed about that and realized that no, we actually really need both. So that's a big preface to say that nothing I'm going to say about big picture perspective or kind of long vision perspective or broad picture, hawk vision. Hawks see more clearly than any other animal, I've been told, on the planet. They have the best vision, and they are able to focus right in on something very specific, as in a meal that they're searching for, while at the same time flying high above it all and seeing what else is in the field and what else is going on. So hawk spirit vision refers to that combination of laser focus on what's important and specific, including right now, what we need to be doing right now, and this broader, bigger, higher sense of what's happening that gives us better vision overall. And Hawk is one of my primary helping spirits in my shamanic practice, and I'll do other podcast episodes focusing on that and explaining more what I mean about that. But I am deep into the big birds, and hawk and eagle, especially, and osprey more recently. But as I said, more about that in another time. All right, so in this first episode, what I want to talk about is the perspective of Jewish Kabbalah that has been really helpful to me, both in terms of what's going on right now and trying to understand the world, and also having a bigger, broader perspective. Now, before I get into that, let me just say, as I was thinking and praying about all this, it also reminded me of that famous dictum quote from Martin Luther King Jr., where he said, "The moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends toward justice." That he realized he had to take the long view in order to understand what he was really in the process of bringing into being. And he, of course, was quoting actually a Unitarian Universalist minister named Theodore Parker with that. But okay. And I also think that there are individual spiritual practices that are really important to keep our immediate efforts, the urgency of what we're doing right now, sustainable and grounded so that we don't burn out. All right, back to Jewish Kabbalah. I'm not an expert on Kabbalah. I refer to myself now as a serious student of Kabbalah. Jewish Kabbalah is the mystery system, the esoteric mystery system that predates all organized religion, including Judaism, although Kabbalah comes to us primarily from the Jewish religion. But it predates that, and the sages that are often referred to, the Kabbalistic experts, the wise ones, the sages, the teachers over the millennia, would suggest that it predates even the Egyptian mystery systems, just all the way back. It's the foundational spiritual wisdom. I have found it incredibly helpful to dive into. One of my primary teachers is a young guy in his 40s, young to me, named David Guillen. He's all over the place now. He has a podcast. You probably see him on the web, the internet, all over the place. Very, very powerful teacher, businessman, spiritual person, someone that I have come to have lots of regard for and take him seriously. I have taken pretty much all the courses he offers online. I encourage you to, if you're interested in Kabbalah. It's a great way to get a basic orientation. I've taken his Kabbalah 1 and 2 twice. And then other things as well. There's also a rabbi named Rabbi David Aaron, who is an author and a teacher, lives in Jerusalem rather, and has an institute there. But again, another very wise author and great Kabbalistic teacher. And then another one named Rav Berg, who's also an author, and I've gotten into his Kabbalistic astrology and lots of things. It's fascinating stuff. All right, so the basic concept of Kabbalah simply means receive, to receive. And according to the Kabbalistic cosmology, or basic understanding of the universe, is that God, the creator, often referred to as the light or the endless light or creator, is all giving and is constantly giving unconditionally love, everything good. And to oversimplify, humans were the part of creation that was made in order to be able to fully receive everything that the creator has to give. So the creator wants to give endlessly, needed a being that could receive all those gifts and then ultimately make a choice freely. And that is, are we humans here to receive the light, all the blessings, all the goodness, simply for ourselves? Or are we here to receive it in order to share it with others? And the Kabbalists teach us that we incarnate again and again and again until we have clearly made a decision which way we're going to go. Are we on that path of love and sharing and goodness? Or are we going to be people who are simply going to take and keep what we can get for ourselves? And Kabbalah, again, it's such a nuanced and beautiful system with so much deep wisdom and teaching. And it's the spiritual interpretation of the Old Testament or the Hebrew Scriptures. But so the reason I bring it up now is that I think we are in, well, I'll call it a battle, although I'm not, a big fan of using militaristic metaphors. But we're in an engagement between the children of light, those who have clearly chosen the way of love, and the children of darkness, those who have clearly chosen the ego path, the fallen ego, the unhealthy ego, the path of selfishness. And according to the Kabbalistic futurology, there will be an engagement ultimately between these two forces. Now, there are a lot of people that are in the middle who have not made the decision, who don't really know which way they're going to go. And they float around and they reincarnate according to this system until they make the decision. But there's a lot of people on the planet who are sort of, I kind of want to be a good person, but I want what I want. And a lot of us are, we're all mixed bags. Nobody's perfect. But there does come a time when you make a clear decision who you are. And so, the first thing I want to say in this podcast is, have you made that decision? And, if there's no ego in this decision, there's no inflation. I mean, you sort of know or you don't. And it's completely fine to say, no, actually, I've never really thought about it. I have not ever made a clear decision as to whether or not I'm going to live my life simply to get what I can get, or whether I want to be someone who understands that the whole purpose of being here is to receive and, yes, enjoy some of the fullness of yourself, or for yourself, not of yourself, for yourself. Enjoy that fullness, but understand that we're conduits. We have open intake so that the goodness can come to us, but then an open outtake so that it can pass through and get to where it needs to go most in the world, and enjoy the joy, or enjoy, yes, the joyful experience of being people through whom God can get resources and love, healing energy where it's needed most in this world. All right, so at some point, the Kabbalists say there's going to be an engagement, a culmination, a struggle between those who have clearly decided for love and who have awakened to that, or who are in the process right now of awakening to that, and those who are clearly given to the path of self. And they say that periodically, historically, someone will emerge who has so clearly chosen the path of self that they will crystallize and galvanize that negative force, that selfishness, and bring that force to the forefront. And part of its job is that it energetically calls forth a response of love that is equally as strong, and there is an engagement there. And in that engagement, creation happens. The next stage of what's going on happens, and love ultimately prevails. That's the story. That's the belief. Love is the strongest force, soul force in the universe. It cannot be defeated by darkness or by selfishness. So that's the Kabbalistic understanding. Now, there's a couple other things that have been really meaningful and interesting and helpful to me that I want to share with you. And one is going to kind of blow your mind, I would imagine. The Kabbalists have a very different take on the notion of evil and who or what Satan is. In Kabbalah, Satan is actually pronounced Satan. It's always preceded by the definite article, ha. So it's ha, Satan, which means the Satan, or literally, if you translate the word Satan, it means the adversary, or the accuser, or in some cases, the divider, the spirit of division. And again, another entire podcast about Satan and Satan and the devil and evil and all of that. But according to the Kabbalists, Ha-Satan is actually created by God. Why? In order to be, in essence, the worthy opponent of humanity and of individuals as well. And that Satan, the Ha-Satan, will, no joke, it's a killer. It will oppose you. It will take you out. It will kill you. It will derail you. It will divert you. It will distract you. It will prevent you from being who you long to be as a vessel of light, called to receive and share. It will get in your way if it can. It will thwart you. It will defeat you in order to force you to call forth the greatest recesses of your being, who you are, to fall to your knees, to cry out to God, to do your work, to develop your own gifts, your own abilities, to do what you can, to call forth the best of who you can possibly be, because it's all required in order to get where you need to go, to be who you're being called to be, and to show up fully in this engagement for the sake of love and justice and truth and goodness in this world, to make it more the way that the divine intended it to be from the outset. And this Satan, created by God, the Kabbalists say, out of love, to call us forth into our greatest selves. It works individually and it works collectively. Now, as I said, I know that's kind of a mind blower. Many of us have grown up thinking that Satan is somehow like the equal evil counterpart to God. That's not biblical at all. Satan at best is a fallen angel, more a counterpart to Archangel Michael than to the divine. It's not an equal source. It is, but there are scriptures themselves, like which one? Where is it? I wrote it down. Isaiah 45 verse 7. It says, "I form the light and create darkness." This is God speaking. "I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things." I came across that scripture many, many years ago, and I'm like, what? I create evil? This is the Kabbalistic understanding of what that means. All right, so what does that have to do with what's going on now? Well, I can't help but wonder if much of what's happening now is that there are forces of selfishness, and I don't even have to name the names. You know, forces of selfishness, of evil that are unapologetic and galvanized as never before. I'll give you my quick definition of evil. I after working with this a bit, and I owe this to Scott Peck and to Richard Rohr, but my definition of evil is that evil is the willful, deliberate distortion or suppression strategically. Let me start again. The willful, strategic distortion or suppression of truth for the purpose of selfish, egocentric gain, deliberately at the expense of others, with no regard for the consequences. I think I shared this in my second or third podcast also. And I was always wanting to kind of put that on somebody and sort of blame somebody for it. And now I'm thinking, yeah, the definition still holds. But maybe it's got a role to play. Yeah, it is going to bring about incredible destruction and pain. And I do not in any way minimize the horror and the pain and the loss and the tragedy. I mean, I think of what just happened in Minneapolis, but what's happened all over the place. What just happened to the 100 schoolgirls in Iran who were killed. I mean, no way to minimize the losses and the suffering. It's not about that. But somehow it's playing the role of calling forth a greater response than ever of love. And I don't know about you, but I see that. I feel that. I watched what happened in Minneapolis. I participated from a distance in whatever ways I could. But I watched people showing up and refusing to be intimidated and refusing to back down and calling out the evil, calling out the violence and saying, we will not go away. I see it in the ways in which people are responding to the Epstein files. No, we're not going to let this go. It's not going to be let go. So people are showing up, finding each other, strengthening each other. There is a emergence, a manifesting of the forces of light and love, such as never before. Now, I'm not in any way trying to condone the role of evil and destruction. It's not about that. But I'm saying, big picture, this is what's happening. We are being awakened. And people who are clearly given to love and light are showing up as never before. And many people who have not made that decision, that Kabbalistic decision, which way are you going to go? Who are you? Many people are realizing, hey, I need to get clear on who I am. And there are some who are just going to, waver or check out or pretend or be in denial or what. Okay, God bless you. God bless you. Just stay out of the way. But it's happening. Love is showing up. It's being called forth precisely because of the intensity of the negativity. Now, there's one more piece of the Kabbalistic thing that is part of my hawk spirit, big picture vision. And this is, when I first heard this, I had to push back a bit. So, I totally understand if you do too. But in Jewish Kabbalah, one of the most important things is to have what they call certainty beyond logic. That everything that's going on is somehow meant to be or part of the Creator's design. And that goes for us as individuals and for humankind at large. Now, like you, I pushed back. I was like, wait a second. I don't think God is a torturer. I don't think God is a rapist. I mean, get real. I mean, I'm not in... Okay, it's not about condoning that. But it's saying that if you zoom out far enough, you're going to see somehow ways in which everything that is happening will, I don't know, it almost sounds offensive, but make sense from a perspective that we don't have access to now. And all I want to say, I mean, again, I can see all the theological and personal reasons to be offended by that. But as I've just paused and taken a deep breath, I can see how so many of the things that have happened or that are happening are already being used to call forth levels of response that will lead to something beautiful and good later. Does that justify the losses in the meantime? That's not mine to say. I mean, every one of us have to take a look at our own lives and our own losses and our own pain and say, is what I've been through, if it leads to something beautiful, ultimately, if it gets me where I am, it was worth it. I can only say that for myself. I have too much compassion and respect for other people's experience to put any pressure on anybody. I'm sharing with you, though, that's what's happening, or that's a part of the Kabbalistic framework. And why that's meaningful to me is it's saying to us, okay, be certain that love, justice, truth, the way of God, the flow of God, the intentions of God are all being brought into being. As the scripture says, God will not be mocked. And again, this is where zooming out and saying, okay, right now I don't see it, I don't feel it, but I'm going to trust and believe, as Martin Luther King Jr. did, that the moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends toward justice. Or as Moses experienced, he got close enough, like Martin Luther King Jr., with that last speech of Kings, when he said, I've been to the mountaintop, quoting Moses, and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there. He was killed the next day, but I've seen it, and you will get there. Well, we are headed toward some very, very tumultuous times, I think. It's obvious. Maybe more so than any of us can begin to imagine, and I am not making light of any of it. But I know who I am and how I'm going to show up. I'm going to get in the way in whatever way I possibly can. But as I do, I'm going to have practices and this hawk vision perspective that grounds everything I'm doing right now in this deep, and I would say joyfully stubborn belief that God will be God, that love will prevail. I don't like to say love wins as much because that's a little bit too triumphalist for me, and I think God's prevailing makes a place even for those whom we are tempted to wish would lose, i.e. be punished. I'm not longing for anyone to be punished. I do long for accountability, and if that includes prison, etc., so be it. But ultimately, I'm not going to delight in anyone's demise or anyone's falling. I'm going to delight in the grace that's bigger than all of it and the mercy that holds all of it. And that's why I call this the big love spirituality. That's a big love, a big perspective. And practices, individual practices that we all need, well, what are yours? Mine are to feed my soul with sacred reading, to take time to be still and quiet and listen for that still small voice within through meditation, prayer, journaling, ways in which I nurture my own awareness and experience of the divine. They all ground me so that when I show up to take action, I'm not just reacting, we're responding on the basis of who we are by virtue of that choice to be people committed to love. So I'm going to close this episode by sharing with you a conversation I just had with my son recently. I was visiting my son and his family, my grandsons. He has a daughter too, but she's grown and gone. But talking to my son about all of this and trying to explain that this bigger picture hawk spirit vision that's both about laser focus on what we can do to prevent unnecessary suffering now in every way. Again, don't ever hear this as a somehow watering down of the urgency to show up and to do what we can to work for love and stand for justice and to prevent unnecessary suffering now. But as I do, I'm going to trust that this is all about a process that God is bringing into being in order to get us where we need to go to evolve and awaken and become better humans and to renew all of our systems. And I'm not being utopian or naive here. I think things are falling apart, many of them, so that we can rebuild something way more beautiful, way more functional. And I think there's a wave of politicians waiting on the other side of this culmination we're coming to right now. People like James Tallarico and others who are going to be beautiful expressions of a love-based political ethic and process, who are interested in more than just making a self-centered, self-aggrandizing power play career out of politics, and who will help us refashion who we are, not just in the United States, but politicians all over. We are waking up to a better way of doing and being human beings. This is what's happening, and this gives me joy. Yes, right now, to be blunt, it's a shit show in so many ways, and no illusions about the pain of it. I know who I am, and I know how I'm going to show up with big love, deep love, love that enables me to pay whatever price I or those I'm with need to pay in order to stand for justice and love and truth and goodness. And a love so big that it always makes a space, even for those who had chosen a different way, the way of selfishness, to come to themselves and say, I lost myself so much. That can happen. That can happen. Oh, I forgot. I got distracted. My conversation with my son. When we're talking about this, he said, as he began to tear up, in essence, I hear what you say, but I got kids. Can't really afford this big picture thing. I got kids. And I want to say to my son and to all of us, we've got kids. I've got grandkids, 7 of them. The stakes are high. Let's show up. Let's decide who we are and bring about a more beautiful way of living together. Okay, well, thanks for listening. I'm going to get back in the groove and post more content more regularly now. And please, if you like this, smash a like, as they say, or drop a comment and subscribe. Help me grow this podcast. I really just want this to be a platform through which I serve, hopefully inspire, and give you some good things to work with, share with you some of the best teachings that I have learned, and then also make myself available. And I will ultimately be available to work with people one-on-one if you would like to be in touch. But I'll leave that for future podcasts before I start, making that offering more specific. Big love, bless you, and I'll see you again soon.